part, you look at me, this isn't here. You just go ahead and say and spell your name for me.
Okay, Ashley Cruz Turner, Ashley Cruseturner.
And what is your position with MCC?
I am a professor of history.
Alrighty, so let's just talk about the third debates are right around the corner. What are folks going to be watching for, looking at in this third debate?
Sure, so the third debate breaks it down to 10 from 20 something, so that's a significant reduction. They're thinking about favorites, I think, the candidates who are lower in the polls they'd like an audience to be giving everybody a fair chance. I think probably most people are looking at names like Biden and Warren and Sanders and a few others and trying to figure out, I think they're probably farther along on their process than you would think. They're looking for finalists.
Okay, and speaking of, even though the number of people participating in the debates has dropped in half, it is still just a one-night event with 10 folks. Do you think, based off of the previous debates where there have been 10, there's going to be much more substance and folks to really dive deep if it were maybe 5 and 6, split over 2 nights? No,
that's exactly right. So you're going to just have one debate, but it's going to look like those. It's going to look a lot like the other debates, and 10 people on the stage. It's hard to get. It's hard to break in. There's a real fight over how much TV time you get, and so the idea of a breakout moment, again, spread across 10 different debaters over a 2 or even 3 hour period, it just gets tough.
Alrighty. Which candidate, speaking of things that are tough for candidates, who has the most at stake amongst those that are still running?
Right. So I'd look at that 2 different ways. The front runners have a lot at stake. Joe Biden has, as soon as he announced, he's been the front runner, and we keep waiting for him to stumble, and it looks like he stumbles, but he's not stumbling. So he's got a lot at stake. We're waiting for the Joe Biden gaffe to bring him down a few notches. So every time he goes out, it seems like he's got something at stake. The people who are right behind Biden, Warren, and Sanders, they want to make that big break that brings them even, so they've got a lot at stake. And then there's the people out there who seem to be struggling, and our own Texas favorite sons like Julian Castro and Beto O'Rourke, those guys have to make a play at some point. You can't just stay out there in the back of the pack forever. You can't keep raising money. So those people have a lot at stake as well.
And speaking of our Texas sons, if you will.
Yes.
First of all, is there any real appeal, do you think, nationwide of another Texan in the White House so quickly after George W.?
Right, it's a great question. So from the Democratic Party perspective, the idea that they're having this debate in Texas, I think, is a little significant. There's a sense that Texas is starting to be competitive. For a long time, there wasn't a redder state in the country than Texas. With the Senate election last year, there's a sense that maybe Texas is winnable from a national perspective, and I think that's why you would, if there's a sense that the Democratic National Party might be looking for a Texan, the idea that they might steal Texas out of the Republican column might be very attractive to them.
And if the Democrats can actually scoop Donald Trump in 2020 and get Texas, that's...
If Texas, the day that Texas leaves the Republican column, it's a clear win for the Democrats. It would be overwhelming. They talk about Texas as not just maybe a toss-up state, but they talk about threshold states, and so Texas is way down the list. If Texas were to go, it's 9 or 10 states down the list of threshold states where things really break. And so if Texas were to go for a Democratic candidate, it's going to be a landslide election for the Democrats.
And so in kind of keeping on that topic of Democrats and Texas, is it fair to say, looking back now, maybe the Beto Cruz race wasn't just an outlier between a less than popular Republican and a really popular Democrat, but it really shows the competitive juices in this state? That's
what a lot of people are perceiving, the idea that, so maybe something has finally changed in Texas. And again, we're reminded of our history. A Democrat hasn't won a a statewide election since I think 1999. So we've got 20 years of Republicans winning every Texas election, statewide election that they're involved in. So that's a lot of history. But there is a sense, it seems like the polling indicates, there's something in the air that Texas is suddenly competitive in a way that it hasn't been for a long, long time.
And does it just help that, for a long time, Democrats weren't putting anybody on the ballot, and now they're actually recruiting?
Yeah, and I think that's something of a vicious cycle. It's hard to recruit when you know you're going to lose, and if it's going to get competitive, if you have a chance to win, much better candidates show up.
And lastly, can any of these candidates that are going on this stage really take on the president here in Texas? I know I've seen some of the numbers from Real Clear Politics, and it shows several of those big-name Democrats are not only competitive, but actually defeating Trump. Right.
So I think as things stand now, it would be a long shot for any Democratic candidate to beat President Trump in Texas. But I think for the first time in a long time, it's not impossible. You see a lot of changes in the cities, the Houston and Dallas and San Antonio. Certainly, whoever runs against President Trump is going to win in those places. It's just that combination of rural-urban divide and all things coming together, and it just keeps getting more competitive. And so it's still a long shot, but it's not unthinkable at this point.
And then you kind of talked about that urban-rural divide. Is that really highlighting across the board that in essence, for as much as Texans have in common and things like that, there really are kind of two Texas mindsets going forward?
I think that's exactly right. So urban Texas is very much different than rural Texas, and of course probably what makes the difference, the thing that breaks the tiebreaker in all of that is the suburbs. And tremendous amount of votes in the suburbs. Fewer and fewer people living in rural areas, and that's still red country. But that suburbs and the cities, they seem to be pretty blue. But those suburbs, that's where the purple area is, and that's what makes it competitive. And so those suburbs may actually swing, and that's where it all comes together, and that's probably where we're going to see the difference made.
Okay. Do you think Julian or Beto have a chance at? Are they almost, at this point, is it fair to say, they're running to be a vice president, a secretary, a cabinet member?
So I think that's a lot of what the conventional wisdom says. I mean, they're really far out long shots. They haven't taken hold. Julian Castro has already been a member of the Obama administration. At this point, a vice president would be a huge feather in their cap, vice presidential nomination. I mean, big things for them in the future. So probably at this point, they'd love to be president. They'd love to catch lightning in a bottle. But I think they're thinking about their political future at this point, 4 years down the road, 8 years down the road even.
Would you like to add anything else?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.